3 Count Thursday is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order? The big news, guys, from really the last week in wrestling and WWE was the draft. Started on last Friday on SmackDown, closed out on Raw on Monday. There was a few draft picks made on Talking Smack over the weekend, as well as like network exclusive leading up to Raw, and then a few things on Raw Talk after Raw, which rounded everything out. Do we want to review all of the picks, or did everybody get the email to see them in front of them? How would you like me to read off the picks? We're good? Okay, so most notably,
email?
I think I had sent it in the group Facebook message.
Oh, okay.
Most notably, I think, or at least one of the most notably, Drew McIntyre WWF title or WWE title stays on Monday Night Raw. Universal title stays on SmackDown. The women's titles stay on their respective brand. The secondary titles stay on the respective brand. But the one of the big ones that I think got the most reaction from people was, of course, the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the new SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the New Day. They, upon winning the titles, meaning Xavier and Kofi, they were drafted to Monday Night Raw. Big E was retained on SmackDown, so the trio is split up, and then on Monday, the Raw Tag Team Champions were drafted to SmackDown. So let's stop there, and then let's get our reaction to the New Day being split up, brand wise, because this got a lot of reaction. Then we'll talk about the tag team titles. So Tim, you kind of have a look on your face like you got some things to say about the New Day being split up here. So I'm gonna lead to you first and let you ruminate, or whatever the correct word is, about the New Day splitting up.
It's Damian Priest's fault. No, it's not. It's not Damian Priest's fault this time. No, this is equally the best and worst idea in the history of ideas. Because I do feel that in a certain light, as long as Big E was with the New Day, like the actual group, with Kofi and Xavier, I don't feel that he would ever really fully break out the same way that like Kofi did when Kofi Mania happened. Big E kind of needs his singles run without anyone else around has been really good so far. And now that they've shuffled some pieces around as far as the SmackDown locker room goes, I mean, I'm looking through the list right now of like potential baby faces on the roster that are like on the top of the list. I mean, there's not that many to, if I'm looking at it right, like
Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens.
Okay. There's two.
I mean, potentially Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, but I think like
I don't think he's going to be used in that spot.
He and Seth Rollins are like Peter in the fight in the chicken right now. Like they're not splitting up anytime soon. And
I'm going to hold up hope that they just forget that they didn't draft that storyline to Raw. They just drafted the talent involved.
Like
and then
they
I'll
drafted
be
all four of them. Literally.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
I
said I'm hoping. I don't.
Yeah, you know. But I'm sad about it. But I also feel as though we're not going to actually miss the New Day. Like, I still think it's going to be the famous phrase from after the curtain call in 96 was, don't confuse dissension for expansion, or don't confuse expansion for dissension, meaning the Click was still the Click, but Kev and Scott and X-Pac went to WCW to be Click South, and then
right.
Shawn and Triple H are Click North. I think that's what it's going to be. Like, Big E's still going to probably do the same New Day stuff. They'll probably have the same theme for a little bit, and they're still going to do the podcast. I'm hoping. If this,
I would hope so.
That's what I'm most mad about. If this ruins the podcast, I'm done.
Tim's out.
It's really Damian Priest's fault then.
God dang it, Bobby.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine that we see the end to the podcast here. Really, I don't necessarily see any reason to, because it's not like Kofi and Xavier were like, hey, E, we're just gonna leave you here. Like, if they didn't turn their back on him or whatever. It was Raw and USA versus SmackDown and Fox, and that's how the draft happened. So I would hope that the New Day is still New Daying, and and I think my initial reaction was I was shocked that it happened, because if you read wrestling Twitter, that was one of the rumors that had been out there for a little while, that this was an idea that it was at least being passed around, that the New Day was going to be split, but still be the New Day, presented, via the podcast, things like that. However, that they would just wouldn't be on the same show. Big E would be by himself. So I was actually shocked that they did it. I agree in the long run that for Big E, this could possibly be that moment, that we can look back to. You think about like Daniel Bryan's run to the title. We look at SummerSlam when like we thought that was going to be his crowning moment, and Triple H turned on him, Randy Orton, and all of that. So like you can always go back to a moment, and I think that's what it'll end up being here for Big E. And also too, like from a storyline perspective, the fact that Raw didn't want him and only drafted Kofi and Xavier, that he can use this as a motivation as well to to drive himself to bigger and better things, in the World Wrestling Federation entertainment. Ryan, we'll jump to you next here.
Let's talk about Raw not wanting Big E. What would the thought process be when you have a pick and you can take 3 athletes in one fell swoop? They've done it earlier already in the draft with the best thing Raw has going and the Hurt Business. So Why would you just not grab all 3? What would be the mentality of ever leaving Big E, the one that's standing out on his own, behind? That doesn't make any sense. If somebody could tell me why, that would be great. If we
it ain't nothing but a heartache. Oh wait, no, that's a different thing too.
And I'm not saying like one of you guys tell me, but like if it's told in the future, why? Because I mean, it's your opinion. Why? My opinion. Why? It doesn't really matter. But there's a reason that Big E wasn't taken, and I feel like that should be told somewhere. And maybe it is. Maybe it will be. Maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse.
No, I think it's a valid.
I would like that to be told. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, at some point along the line, it would be a nice thing to hear as to what was the thought process there, and maybe it doesn't even happen until Big E wins the Royal Rumble or wins the Universal title or what have you. Like, maybe that's the moment where like Kofi and Xavier are like, hey, what were you guys doing? This could have benefited your show. Maybe I think maybe part of the
Big E, well, he farts in the locker room, so that's just no go.
And I don't know if not having a like a GM or an authority figure besides Adam Pearce, is part of the reason why. And obviously, we've only had one episode of TV up to this point, and the draft was still going on. What's up, Nikki? Nikki joining in. So maybe I don't know if the lack of an authority figure to blame for Big E not being taken with is part of that as well. Which, like, sidebar, do you guys miss like an authority figure? I've actually seen people like, which is funny because a lot of times people were mad that we had the authority figure and they got too much screen time at times. But now I've seen lately people saying that WWE almost needs, even if it's the same one on both brands, which I don't know how that would make sense, but just not having an authority figure seems weird. Did anybody else miss an authority figure?
I do, because I like William Regal as the NXT commissioner, where like having my authority figures are very much like WCW's former authority figures, like Cowboy Bill Watts or Jim Herd or JJ Dillon when he was president, or like not so much in the later years of WCW when like in like 2000, 2001, where like the Cat is the commissioner and then there's Terry Funk and Ric Flair and Kevin Nash and like
wasn't Russo kind of one at one point, right?
Yeah, I mean Russo was the book. He was like a part of the powers that be. But to me, like I feel like there needs to be some person who can explain why certain things just happen on the fly. Like I don't like when the wrestler just says, "I'm going to wrestle you tonight." This is a thing.
Right, like it's a TV show. Somebody's putting this thing together.
Yeah, like the Cowboys and the Eagles aren't playing football and then all of a sudden the Titans and the Dolphins roll in and go, "Hey, I want to play them today."
Or like at halftime be like, "Split squad, let's go."
Yeah, like right here we're playing 7-on-7 in the halftime. Like,
right.
I feel that kind of guidance, especially for like also things that get booked down the line, like having the ability to do contract signings and not have to use Michael Cole or Tom Phillips or somebody else in the ring to kind of be the, I guess, what's the phrase I'm looking for? The notary? Like, I don't know.
So kind of liking it more to how like Jack Tunney ruled the World Wrestling Federation back in the day, or like when Gorilla Monsoon was the president, like more like a president of WWE as opposed to the authority, like that would come out
Right.
and take 15 minutes at the start of the show and then be a constant feature throughout. Like you don't necessarily need that, but some sort of governing body that that we know makes decisions and can override a decision here or be an answer for something there. I think that is probably what is missed, as opposed to like the Triple H and Stephanie authority, or like the corporation or something like that. That it was more a, like, obviously it's all storyline, but as opposed to what we knew more in like the Attitude Era and beyond. I think that would help. But back to the New Day and that situation. Ryan, did you have any other thoughts on it, or should we go to Matt and Mark?
Go ahead.
Okay, Matt.
I think that it does kind of leave up that opportunity to have an explanation, because if you are drafting full teams, then there does need to be some sort of resolution to all of this, like Ryan said. That being said, I'm really excited to see what Big E does, because I think he's kind of always been someone that WWE wanted to push. They just could never really find the right time. the right situation. I think once he broke out of his like silent enforcer role with Dolph back in the day, he had really good momentum there, and it just kind of fizzled out until New Day. So I think they have a prime opportunity to turn Big E into something, for lack of better term, big in the company. So I would love to see what they do with it and how far he goes with it from here.
Sure. In turn, Mark.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to be Big E's time to shine, that's for sure. I can see him potentially getting a run with the title. But down the road, there's eventually going to be a New Day reunion, which will sell a lot of T-shirts and merchandise. But right now, I think it was a necessary thing to do to kind of get Big E on his own and give him that push. But yeah, there really is no logic behind why would you take two members of the New Day and leave one behind. So maybe we'll get some answers here in the next few weeks. But beyond that, I'm actually excited to see Big E on his own, to see what he can do.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's see here. Scotty says fans are unhappy now with Big E splitting from New Day, but their reaction changes when he dethrones Reigns at Mania. Sure. And obviously too, like let's book out a little bit. If he wins the Royal Rumble, like theoretically he doesn't even have to go at Roman Reigns. Like if WWE wants to like keep the reign of Reigns going, if it's still just printing money for them, then you can always bring him over to the Raw brand with the WWE title. Nikki asks, are they going to give Big E new music and gear? I wouldn't, at least not in the short term. I mean, because based on the way the three of them reacted to the decision and everything like that, like they weren't happy about it. So it's there's no reason in my mind why anything should change presentation wise for any of them.
Yeah. Well, the thing is though, that is subject to change because the New Day is having their quote unquote farewell match on SmackDown tomorrow.
That's a good point.
Against, I think it's Dolph Ziggler, Bobby Roode, and Sheamus. So I don't know if there's like a split or anything that like could take place. Because I feel like also making the new day of Kofi and Xavier heel doesn't really do anything spectacular on Raw, and making Big E heel on SmackDown for what?
Right.
For
your money maker on SmackDown is a heel for all intents and purposes. Like,
right.
Regardless of the fact that we all love him. He is not what we would refer to as a babyface.
Not a good person.
Correct.
But I've got my own thoughts as to like why Big E was split from the rest of the New Day. But I would like to see what the storyline reason would be. Yeah.
It's that would be. And I'm with Ryan. I hope that at some point that gets addressed. Like, what was the reason why you wouldn't take this group that, for almost the entire time we've been on the air with this show, they've been a thing. Because like I tuned on as I was like putting things together today on the network, like whatever pay-per-view is that month, they'll throw like, every Hell in a Cell pay-per-view ever. So just randomly threw on 2015, and like it wasn't. That was the one where Del Rio returned to unthrone Cena at the bad year. But like the New Day was still the New Day, and I was like, what? Like you forget that they've actually been the New Day for that long.
That got a huge pop though, Del Rio's return.
Oh, it absolutely did at the time. Like I was watching that today, and when like Zeb Coulter like announces Del Rio's return, and that place went fucking ballistic. I was like, wow, things have changed in 5 years, have they not?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that because I was in Disney at the time, and I remember like watching. I was like, "Why is Del Rio getting this massive of a reaction?"
I mean, I was I liked Del Rio until I found out he was a real piece of shit. So
Oh, it's worse now.
oh, I know.
Okay.
It's real
Wait,
worse
there's
now.
more?
Oh, you didn't know, Tim? You want to tell him?
He just got indicted on some bad stuff.
Like he was like hitting up women, right? Like
Oh,
striking
but
women?
he got like
Yeah, and like this is like it was like kidnapping and something else, I think.
like 5 counts of stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
it was.
shit.
Yeah, it was real bad.
yeah,
What a dirtbag.
we might gotta put asterisks in that guy's name or
Yeah,
vowels.
yeah. I mean, not.
Oh, Owl of the River.
Yeah, definitely not good. But I was just surprised. Like, wow, like the New Day was a thing back then. By the way, that show had a really good Hell in a Cell match between Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt.
Yes, sir.
Those two work really well together.
Do you
But
wonder who won?
shocking, huh?
When y'all gonna get over the fact that Bray Wyatt doesn't have to win to be over?
Well,
Like, how many more
I mean,
how many
back-
more times
back then,
is
he
that gonna
wasn't-
have to?
Back then, he wasn't winning at all. Like
That's
he
correct.
needed to win back then to get over. He doesn't now.
Yeah, I
um,
don't think he needed it back then either. But
Was that creepy? He's got the whole world in his hands, kids around the ring? Or was
no, that was
even
the
before
Cena
that?
feud. But I think
this was the derivative of Shield versus Wyatt's.
so that would have been
Okay.
before Whole World in his hands. I think
Okay.
that came not long after that though.
Yeah, this was the anyone but you Roman.
Right.
Bray Wyatt.
And now we're just again, amazing how things change in 5 years because now we're all thankful for Roman.
And why did they take I get it, but having the Fiend and Roman Reigns on the same brand gave me that potential frenetic energy of like, get these two together,
Right.
especially now. Like Roman Reigns now with Heyman and the Fiend with Alexa, like this. Oh, you want to talk about a WrestleMania match? I don't care if it goes back to the Buccaneers Stadium or if it goes into the unfinished SoFi Arena or if it's back in the Thunderdome or whatever.
Let's time out because I put up the WrestleMania post, the days until WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Okay. And every so often somebody feels like they got to be cute and be like, well, it's not in Hollywood and it's not here. Look, I understand that it's probably not going to be at SoFi, but until that's official, I will continue to at times put up the WrestleMania Hollywood logo. Deal with it, fuckers.
You ought to put like the WrestleMania 8 logo up.
I might just
The
start
the WrestleMania 21 logo up.
I know, I get it.
Sorry,
I know.
WrestleMania 7.
Yeah, like
Don't you know COVID's happening, Jim?
yeah, like hey man, it's not gonna. It's not there. The guy on the internet told me so. Look, I am aware. And like yeah, I know the Wikipedia. I could change Wikipedia for WrestleMania to be at Saudi. Okay, like just because it says it on Wikipedia, I know it's not
say that
100% true.
loud.
No, it's too
Hey,
late.
listen.
It's too late.
I can't blame Damian Priest on that one.
And just put that right into the universe.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
did. I did a
delete
bad
it.
thing. I did a bad thing.
Redact.
I wish I had like a rewind button. But it's I know that it's probably not going to be in California, but until it's
California.
official, and by official I mean the WWE makes a statement, it is still planned for March 28th, 2021 in California.
You have it.
So there we go. Three Count Thursday is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app. That's arenaeats.app for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order? Now to the other thing from this New Day split and the the tag team title situation, because Twitter got like big mad that the SmackDown tag champions that were drafted to Raw, and then the Raw tag champions were drafted to SmackDown, and in the back they just swapped the titles. Now, I know people, and myself included, thought that this draft was a great potential opportunity to unify the tag titles. Do I think they should have unified the tag titles? I do. That said, I didn't have any problem with the title swap in the back, because why would you have the Raw titles on SmackDown and the SmackDown titles on Raw? Like, it just seemed obvious.
Pretty easy. They drafted that team, and the belt goes with that team. It's simple. That's why you would have the SmackDown Championship on Raw. It's very simple. It was laid out. The belt goes with the champions.
But
the end.
They're just tag titles. Like, one represents the Raw brand, one represents the SmackDown brand. So you would move the SmackDown titles to their brand and the Raw titles back to their brand. You're still tag champions.
You're going to move the wrestlers that you drafted and the hardware that goes with them.
Right.
Yes. Now that makes sense if they had drafted, so at the end of Friday, the New Day and the Street Profits were on Raw.
Correct.
Okay. So if after Raw, the Street Profits stayed on Raw, then the SmackDown tag titles stay on Raw. But this is a creative way to do it's not like they drafted. Okay, so I'll ask this. I'll ask it a different way. If they don't just swap the titles backstage in like a political move, who the H on SmackDown is going to be your tag team champions? And also, who's going to be your Raw champs?
It seems if that was an issue for SmackDown, you would have drafted a tag team champion. If you allowed both tag team champions to go to Raw, then you've lost.
Well, I mean, but here's what's to say. Raw valued the New Day as tag champs higher than they valued the Street Profits. So they took the SmackDown tag champions early, which forced SmackDown to take the Street Profits in an understanding that they would just swap titles.
I mean, they were drafted in round 4, so it's not like they were the top of Raw's priorities.
It was Raw's 10th pick.
Yeah.
And by that time, they had already drafted their world champion, their women's title, the U.S. title. I think they drafted all of their titles in the first round.
Yeah, they drafted
except for the tag titles.
And then the women's tag champs at the end of round 2.
Right. So, but the women's tag titles are defended on all 3 brands, so that doesn't even matter. It's like,
in theory, they drafted the tag team and the hardware came with.
Correct.
But to me, I just look at it as in a world where the WWE gets very criticized, again, right, wrong, or indifferent, for things that don't make sense or can be confusing. To me, what's more confusing than if you have a new viewer that tunes in on SmackDown to see the Raw tag team champs on that brand, or vice versa. Like, and granted, you can simply explain every week for the next calendar year why the Raw tag team titles are on SmackDown, or that the SmackDown tag team titles are on Raw, or you could just make it make sense and have, the branded titles be back on that show. Like, to me, this made it. Could they have done it in a better way? I guess I don't know, but To me, I had zero issue with it. Like, to me, it absolutely made sense. Once the Street Profits were drafted to SmackDown, I was just like, oh, so they're just gonna swap the belts, probably. Like,
I mean, I think it's a lot better than vacating both titles and then having a nothing match on both shows,
or a tournament on both shows,
in which the New Day just wins the Raw tag titles and the Street Profits win the SmackDown tag titles. Like,
yeah, I agree with that.
You could have had Cesaro and Nakamura not lose the championships, keep them there, and just have somebody on Raw flip it to a Raw champion and still draft the way you drafted it. I mean, you threw it on the New Day to then draft them to Raw. So, I mean...
But, I mean...
it's not like it's
Nakamura and Cesaro... But Nakamura and Cesaro weren't drafted until Monday night, whereas the New Day was drafted on Friday night.
I'm saying back when you wrote the storyline to flip it and put it on the New Day, you could have just had Nak and Cesaro retain.
But I think part of... I mean, I agree, but I think part of the allure of the New Day was also yet another, what are they, 11-time champs now or something? I lost track of the number. But the fact that they came back and they won the titles in storyline probably made them more luxurious with their first pick in the 4th round, as opposed to, later on in the draft as well. Not that draft position, let's be honest, that's a whole nother thing we'll dive into, because people were reacting to, Dana Brooke was picked over so-and-so, and I think it's easy to get hung up on some of those details, but again, it's a illogical world.
I think
you can't apply logic to some of it then, and not to the whole. I feel so. If we're going to apply logic to just swapping the belts or not having a red title belt on blue brand and blue on red, then it's fair to say that the New Day wasn't important enough to SmackDown to keep until the 4th round, drafting Bianca Belair from Raw. That was a more important get to them than keeping their own tag team champions, grabbing Dominic and Ray from Raw to your brand. So, you have to think order-wise. Like, you can't deny it if we're going to try to apply a logic to some of it. I get it's a totally illogical situation. The only one that actually made sense were the first 2 champions staying put, and then I think it was Natalya actually getting drafted in the 7th round, where she belongs as well.
What a dick. But yeah, I mean, it just, I felt like out of the things that I think people could have been upset about as it relates to the draft and where some people may have ended up brand wise, I just felt like the swapping of tag titles, which again, a brand specific, a brand specific. I mean, the same thing would have happened in my mind if Bayley would have been drafted to, if Bayley would have been drafted to Raw and Asuka would have been drafted on SmackDown. Just switch the titles. Yeah, repping the Rant Foundation, Ant jumping in on the comments here. But it was one of those.
Would you do the same with the IC Championship and the Universal Champion, or the United States Champion?
Because they're not branded as the Raw title.
Because they're not on that color strap, correct? Because they are brand specific.
It has nothing to do with the strap color.
The titles are named the Raw Tag Team titles and
correct.
The SmackDown Tag Team titles.
Correct.
It's not the SmackDown Intercontinental Champion.
Okay.
Like, if let's say the Raw Tag Team titles were the World Tag Team titles,
and the others are the Universal Tag Team
right,
titles.
then you don't do the swap.
Got it.
Same as like last year when Brock, well, he wasn't even drafted. I think he just went. I think he just went to Raw with the WWE title, and then they drafted the Universal title over to SmackDown. Like, you didn't swap the belts because you just made a blue Universal title, which was better anyway.
Because Brock dropped the strap, right?
Well, no, because didn't Brock win the WWE Championship before the draft? And then I think he said he just drafted himself to Raw. I felt like I don't think he was ever actually drafted. If somebody wants to look up last year's draft, but I feel like he just was like, I don't want to be on SmackDown. I'm going over to Raw. But yeah, again, it's not the Raw World Title and the SmackDown World Title. They had different names, so I had no problem.
You imagine if AEW did something like this, Jim?
Oh God!
Oh my!
Don't
God.
worry, I'll
You
get
just
to
imagine.
them. I'll get
You
to
would
them
shit
later.
All over it.
Brock was drafted first round, second pick on Raw,
Okay.
or the Raw half of the draft. He was drafted to SmackDown, so he was WWE champion when that happened, and Seth Rollins was Universal champion, and then Seth Rollins lost the title at or he lost it in Saudi Arabia to because didn't Brock lose the title?
Well, no, Brock didn't lose his title until Mania. So how did Brock get over to Raw?
How did he not lose the title until because he lost it to Drew?
He lost it to Drew. I think after
I
the
think it was
guess
at
there was
Saudi.
just-
I think
I guess
yeah,
there was
a head on a pole match.
I think after Saudi, when Seth lost the Universal title to
Bray Wyatt.
To
who
Bray
was on
Wyatt.
SmackDown.
correct,
Then that title was blue, and then it was a face, and now it's blue again.
yeah, and I think at that point there was some sort of reason that like Brock just showed up on Raw, like somebody on SmackDown like pissed Heyman off or something like that, and then he went over
I
to
feel
Raw.
like there was a title change.
Yeah, we need to figure that out. But
Oh, because Kofi was Brock had just won the the WWE Championship
the first
at the first
SmackDown.
first SmackDown on Fox. So then when did Brock, on the November 1st, 2019 episode of SmackDown, Lesnar quit SmackDown and went to Raw?
Yeah.
So it was basically Brock saying, "Oh, the Universal Champion is here. I'm just gonna go to Raw."
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. It was like something or somebody or somehow something pissed Heyman off on SmackDown.
Well, it's because
Or pissed Brock off.
Bray won the title on Halloween.
Is that when it was?
Yeah.
Why are we going down this rabbit hole? It doesn't make a ton of sense for me.
Because
If it's last Halloween,
because
and they just.
it was tied to the swapping of the titles on brands.
But if they're just props, it doesn't even matter, right? Like if they're just props, there's nothing real. I mean, the Stanley Cup, it's just a prop. It's not a big deal.
Watch your mouth.
The Lombardi Trophy, they're interchangeable.
Watch your mouth. Well, no, I mean the Lombardi Trophy. There's a new one every year. The Stanley Cup is the Stanley Cup. So let's
Calder Cup. I mean, same thing.
There's only one of those. This doesn't get remade every year.
Sure.
But that was why we fell down that rabbit hole, is because you asked the question about if the U.S. title and Intercontinental title, if you would just swap them backstage, which you wouldn't.
Which are brand specific, right? We will admit that. They are brand specific.
No.
They are not brand specific.
They're not brand specific.
No.
But one's only on one brand, right?
U.S. and Intercontinental are not brand labeled.
It's not the Raw United States title and the SmackDown Intercontinental title. Like,
okay.
Whereas the Raw
So
Women's title,
it's just the tag team championships we're talking about then.
Yes.
or the women's
Because
title.
it's not the Raw Universal champion, right?
That's
The
correct.
women's title too.
Yeah, the women's titles and the tag team titles, the men's tag teams titles, are
Which
brand
I'm not
specific.
Sure why. I'm not sure why they just don't name the SmackDown women's title the Women's Universal Championship.
That's kind of a good point too. And like, since we are
Or
digging
the
down this
Women's
hole,
WWE Championship.
I don't know why the Raw tag team titles aren't the World
Aren't
Tag
the
Team
uni-
titles, and
yeah.
SmackDown are the Universal Tag Team titles.
Problem fucking solved, right?
Right. Or
Yes.
or in this current world, why you don't unify the tag division, because you have like two or three tag teams company wide as it is. So like that if there was one thing that confused me more with the tag team title situation,
Don't be confused.
it was that. It's why didn't you take this opportunity to unify those titles? I like, to me, because the women's division, although I think you still could have unified those, women's division is deeper than the tag team division right now, talent wise. So I just, to me, there's
Lana has a championship match coming up.
Oh,
right?
we'll get to that too, Ryan. Because that.
All right, we're talking about depth. I just want
So
to.
looking, that kind of covered like Friday night, Monday night. Obviously, you see, and this is one thing that I was kind of thinking about when we did our like mock draft last week, was the fact that Raw needs more characters. They have great wrestlers, but they need more characters. They have a longer show to fill. You got that with Miz and Morrison. You move the Fiend and Alexa Bliss to Monday Night Raw. Like I think, and we can kind of like tie this into the question of like who won the draft. I don't necessarily know that either side won. I mean, SmackDown, I think you have with having Roman Reigns, that's, to me, that's the best pick of the draft for a brand specific at this point. But I think the thing that is going to help Monday Night Raw is you have more characters than you had before. Ryan, you look confused.
Raw absolutely won the draft. I don't see how you couldn't think Raw didn't win this draft. Raw had the best thing that they had going on their brand, which I think is the Hurt Business, squared away, and then took the best thing about the SmackDown brand in Bray Wyatt and brought it over to Raw. There's no way SmackDown is better off coming out of this brand split draft. Absolutely no way.
Okay.
I mean, Roman staying put and the feud with Jimmy or Jey Uso, whichever one it is, is great. But what else do they have? They have Otis with the briefcase. That's all they've got now. That's literally it.
Well, you still have Sasha and Bailey. You still you have some
the shit we retired on Raw, put over there with Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio.
Like I said, I'm hoping that storyline didn't get drafted. I'm hoping. I didn't say.
And Shorty G stays there, so SmackDown wins.
I didn't say SmackDown wins.
Lars Sullivan.
Oh, I forgot about Lars Sullivan.
Oof. That's a big non-preferred.
Yeah. He'll be sucking up the talent, sucking off the. I don't know what he'll be doing. He'll be doing something.
Oh my!
I think each brand benefited for each brand.
But in what way did SmackDown benefit?
Because as a shorter show, you have, I think you have some storylines there. You have the Reigns and Uso. You have the now Big E's by himself. So what's going to happen there? What's Seth Rollins going to do? And again, this is all just on paper, because theoretically we tune in tomorrow night and it's still the Murphy, Ray, and whatever show, and you have a deep women's division.
What's new to SmackDown that's exciting, like the changeovers that we saw to Raw?
What's new to SmackDown is the fact that Big E's now by himself. You have Bianca Belair. There's some other women's talent that came over. Kevin Owens is over. Seth Rollins is over. I think there is, like Bianca Belair coming over. I love the fact that she's in a different women's division now. And again,
she's built for SmackDown, so that's a good one. But I mean, if you're looking at like overall who got better, like a lot of the main storylines that you were saying is like a plus for SmackDown was stuff that they kind of already had.
Yes and no, but again, that being a 2-hour show, Raw needed the most work as well.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
them getting the lion's share of the better side of the draft, it helps them more. But I don't think SmackDown is as hurt by losing Bray Wyatt and the Fiend. So that's why I mean,
when you evaluate a draft, like if you're looking at the Chiefs going into a draft and the Detroit Lions going into the draft, and the Lions hit big on a new receiver, a new D lineman, and like a strong safety that's really good, and the Chiefs get like a backup wide receiver because they really don't need anyone. Like, you're going to say the Lions did a lot better in the draft because they hit on all these points of need, whereas the Chiefs are still probably the better team. So, like, that's how I'm evaluating this draft. Like,
okay, that's fair.
Raw added so much because they needed to add so much, whereas SmackDown didn't add so much because they have a lesser time slot to fill. So I understand your point too, whereas like they have all these storylines that they can use now in a 2-hour show, and it's great and it's more focused. But if you're looking at overall who did better in the draft, you have to say it's Raw.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Intern Mark.
SmackDown decided to take Lars Sullivan before Keith Lee. Enough said. That should be the end of the argument right there.
When was Keith Lee even taken?
The third round after Retribution, who's trying to gut the WWE from inside.
See, that Keith Lee pick is the reason why I think is part of the reason why Big E didn't go to Raw.
Okay.
You think they're just going to put Keith Lee in a singlet and do the dancey stuff?
No,
Yeah.
I'm thinking that there's 5 or at least 2 really big charismatic black dudes in the WWE, and you can't have them both on the same show.
Vince would not stand for that.
Hell no.
Intern Mark, who won the draft to you?
Oh, it's got to be Raw. Question. But then again, I end up with Carmella and Tamina over there as well. So
Carmella has never switched brands in a draft. I saw that tidbit.
Really?
Yeah, I saw that. She is
that's interesting.
She has always been on SmackDown, and like, I mean, I guess this one was a little more obvious because Corey Graves is a SmackDown dude, which like right now that should even be somewhat irrelevant because TV's in one place for eternity anyhow. So like those arguments of like, well, so and so's with so and so they can't be drafted to other brands. Why not right now? Devin says Raw won as well. Tim, your thought?
Raw won, but they cheated.
They cheated?
Yeah, and it's not necessarily Raw's fault that they cheated. I hate the draft premise the way that it's currently set up.
3 picks to 2 picks?
Yes. Like if having a number of talent like matter, like, or have like having a set number on each side, like, then cut the draft off at like 10 rounds and then everyone else is a free agent, and do 5 picks from each show on Raw, then 5 on SmackDown, and that's it. Like, the fact that it's 3-2 every round that's horrible. And the fact that in the first round of the draft, okay, Raw took 6 people.
They did.
And SmackDown got 2.
They did. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, like, and I get it. SmackDown could do the same thing, but
would you have preferred it go SmackDown Raw, SmackDown Raw, Raw?
No, I think it should just go. It should go whoever there should be a reason why there should be a reason why a show got the first pick.
Well, Raw clearly got the first pick because they were the worst of the two brands.
But there was no explanation.
Right,
like,
but
Raw,
let's
Raw got it because they're the firstborn, and then SmackDown got theirs. I think there shouldn't be a double pick. I just think it should go Raw, SmackDown, Raw, SmackDown, Raw, or SmackDown, Raw, SmackDown, Raw, SmackDown. Like, however, and then the diversification of picks or roster moves is done after the draft, like they did with the original brand split in 2002. There was 10 picks from each show, and then you could pick and choose who you wanted.
You know, the best way to fix this is to make Raw 2 hours again. That's the best way to fix this.
No,
yeah, 100%.
It's 100%. Also to stop. It's also to stop telling me that like Raw needed Babatunde or Akira Tozawa or Titus O'Neil or Riddick Moss and Arturo Ruas.
Tim, what is your phone case?
It's pink.
No, but like, is there anything on it? It's just
It's just pink.
It's just plain.
I'm fine with the color. I was just like, is that what is he holding?
Yeah, it's my phone. Yeah. But it's like Raw doesn't need like there's a lot of like extraneous picks that are made like that don't really necessarily need to be made for the sake of like having to pick someone.
Sure.
Like cut the draft off at 10 apiece or 15, however you want to do it. And then like you have Talking Smack and you have Raw Talk. They already used both of those shows as expansion draft material.
Right, and you had the bonus picks before Raw on the network as well.
Well, those were free agent acquisitions.
Okay, I mean, same difference. Raw got one, SmackDown got one, but yeah, like you have
whoever was left over.
Right, like you have a network. You have a network at your disposal. Like, you know, post on your social media channels earlier in the day. You also have
Twitter. Like,
right.
It doesn't even have to be live on the network. Just like at WWE, breaking news. The Raw brand has signed, for example, there's one notable free agent that didn't get drafted at all, and that's Andrade.
Right.
Andrade did not go to Raw or SmackDown.
I thought you were going to say Bo Dallas.
I could care less.
I mean, he is still a free agent as well.
Sure.
Like the technical current list of free agents is Mickie James, Andrade, Jimmy Uso, Edge, Bo Dallas, John Cena, Ronda Rousey, Mojo Rawley, Samoa Joe, Jinder Mahal, Ivar, Sonya Deville, Becky Lynch, the Forgotten Sons, who are very forgotten, Oldberg, The Undertaker, and The Big Show.
You can blame Jason Reichert for that one.
Yeah.
For sure can.
Sure can.
Just Steve Cutler and Blake, Wesley Blake are just turning and going, just shut up.
They're definitely just like,
shut the up. Like Andrade though, like his signing could be a big deal. It can be announced. Like it doesn't have to be like these little Arturo Ruas could have been a Twitter mention or like a WWE Now clip on Instagram Live.
Who the hell is this?
Like something.
Yeah.
You sound like Matt shitting on Raw Underground because Shane McMahon's part of it. You're just shitting all over the Raw Underground cast.
I love Raw Underground.
Dabakato, Babatunde, Arturo Ruas.
Two of those dudes are the same guy.
These are the guys you're mentioning, not me.
I mentioned one guy
by the wrong name.
Dabakato?
You didn't call him Dabakato.
You did call him Babatunde first.
He's Babatunde.
You dead named him.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. SmackDown drafted Big E Langston and Alexander Rusev is on AEW. Antonio
forget-
Cesaro's over on
gonna say,
SmackDown.
Don't you dare forget Antonio Cesaro.
And what's Rick Victor and what was it, Connor O'Brien?
Who?
Three Count Thursday is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order?